Let's unpack one of the most common yet complicated decisions we have to make pretty much every single day: what we're willing to give up for a little bit of digital convenience. Think of this as your guide to navigating our online world just a little bit smarter.
So picture this. It's a scene we've all been in, right? You're trying to get some work done, maybe send an important email, or just, scroll a bit. But your phone has 0 bars. You are totally, completely disconnected.
And then, like a little digital miracle, a Wi-Fi network pops up. And it's not just any network, it's free, high-speed Wi-Fi. Seems like the perfect solution. But, of course, there's always a catch. To get connected, you don't just have to pop in an email address. No, this one wants your full name, your personal phone number, and, get this, a photo of your government-issued ID. Yeah, suddenly free feels incredibly expensive.
So what's the play? What do you do in that moment? Do you click connect because you are just desperate for the internet? Or do you hit decline because it feels way, way too risky? This isn't some trick question. It's a real dilemma we face all the time.
And this right here is the central trade-off of our modern lives. We are constantly balancing this need for convenience against our fundamental right to privacy. So let's break down what's really at stake here. To really get a handle on this trade-off, we need to understand the currency that's being exchanged. And in pretty much every digital transaction, that currency is your personal data.
Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial term: personally identifiable information, or as you'll see it, PII. It's basically the official name for any piece of data that, on its own, or importantly combined with other info, can point directly back to you. Now, PII kind of comes in two main flavors. You've got your direct identifiers. These are the obvious ones, like your name or your ID number. But then you have indirect identifiers. And this is stuff like your GPS location, your device's unique ID, maybe even your fingerprint. Now, individually, they might not seem like a big deal, but when you combine them, they can paint a surprisingly clear picture of exactly who you are.
So we know what we're sharing, but what about how we agree to share it in the first place? Well, this all comes down to the idea of consent. We've all clicked that agree button 1,000 times without reading a single word of the fine print. But legally and ethically, that little click is supposed to represent your consent. The big question is it actually valid consent? See, for consent to be the real deal, it has to meet all 5 of these conditions. It's got to be freely given, with no pressure. It has to be specific for a very clear purpose. You have to be informed of the risks. It needs an unambiguous action, like you actively ticking a box. And it should be granular, letting you say yes to some things and no to others. So that simple agree to all button, it often fails this test big time.
Okay, so let's just say you've given consent. What happens next? How do companies actually handle your PII? Well, they have a few key tools in their toolbox to either protect or, in some cases, just kind of obscure your identity. Companies really use 2 main approaches here. On the left, you've got pseudonymization. The best way to think about this is like a secret code. Your name gets replaced with something like user_8821, but the company keeps a secret key that can link it back to you. It's reversible. On the right, you've got anonymization. This is more like a statistical blur. Your name is just deleted and specific details are turned into broad ranges. This one is irreversible. So one just hides your identity, the other erases it. Big difference. So beyond just hiding your name, there's another absolutely critical layer of defense: encryption. The best analogy I've heard is that it's like taking all your data and scrambling it up into an unreadable secret message. Only someone with the correct digital key can unscramble it and actually read what it says. Now, encryption is super important in 2 states. First, at rest, which is just when your data is sitting on a server somewhere. And second, in transit, which is when it's actively moving across the internet, say from your phone to a server. You know that little padlock icon you see next to a website address? That's your visual cue that encryption is active and protecting your data in transit. The best companies don't just try to bolt these protections on at the end. They practice something called privacy by design. And that just means that privacy is a core feature from the very beginning. They follow key principles like data minimization, which means only collecting what's absolutely necessary, purpose limitation, using that data only for the reason they told you, and privacy by default,
making the most secure settings the standard, not something you have to go hunting for in the settings menu.
Okay, so we've covered the main concepts, but how do we actually apply them? How do we go from just understanding these dilemmas to making better decisions in the real world? Well, for that, we need a tool. Because the reality is, modern tech is just filled with these tough choices. A ride-hailing app, it needs your location to keep you safe, but in the process, it creates this detailed history of your every move. A messaging app syncs your contacts to make it easy to connect with friends, but by doing that, it shares data about your friends without their consent. See, these aren't just technical problems. They are deeply ethical ones.
And that really is the big question, isn't it? When a new app or a new piece of technology comes along, how can we thoughtfully decide whether the convenience it's offering is actually worth the privacy it's costing us? How do we make that call?
And here is that tool. It's called the Ethics Framework, and it's a simple but really powerful way to structure your thinking. You just walk through the letters. E is for stakeholders. Who is actually affected by this? T is for transparency. Is the whole process clear and honest? H is for harm versus benefit. Does the good genuinely outweigh the potential bad? I is for informed consent. Did people really truly agree to this? C is for compliance. Does it follow the law? And finally, S is for safeguards. Is the data actually protected and minimized? This framework turns a vague worry into a structured, clear-eyed analysis. So let's bring all this home. Why does mastering these concepts and using a framework like ethics actually matter to you, personally? I mean, what is the true meaning of privacy anyway? Well, at its very core, privacy isn't about having something to hide. It's about dignity and it's about safety. It's the right to control your own identity, to not be tracked and analyzed without your permission, and to be safe from the very real harm that can happen if your data falls into the wrong hands. Really, the whole goal here is to equip you with an actionable mindset. So from now on, you can recognize PII when a service asks for it. You can question whether a consent request is really valid. You can understand the difference between just hiding your data and truly making it anonymous. And you can evaluate any new tech that comes your way using a structured, ethical framework. So I'll just leave you with this one thought. The next time you're about to hit a connect or an agree button, just take 1 second. Ask yourself, what am I really being asked for here? And what am I truly getting in return? What are you trading with your next click?